Hello everyone, my name is Mucho Fred. In this video, I'll be explaining how to use Fetch API in JavaScript. Fetch is used to get or send data between applications and servers. Fetch is modern way of making HTTP requests. Before Fetch, we used something called XML HTTP request, which was more complex and not easy to understand. But now, through use of Fetch, we get to use modern way, which is more concise and more understandable. Fetch always returns a promise, which means that you can use then on Fetch, and you can even use async and await on Fetch. So throughout this tutorial, I will be showing you how we can use Fetch to fetch data. So without any further ado, let's first see how we can fetch data. In this first example, we use then. As I told you, Fetch always returns a promising. So we use this Fabric API to fetch data from this server. This one, I've pasted link here. So let's go on. So the syntax is Fetch always takes URL as a parameter. So we'll paste this here. Yes, this is clear. Let's use then to fetch this data. So how we use then, first of all, we need to change the response into JavaScript object. So we do it like this. Response dot JSON. This one changes response into JavaScript object so that we can get the response as an object. So as I told you, we know that the fetch always returns a promise. So we need to wait for it in this then so that it becomes fulfilled. After it is fulfilled, that's when we can see it on screen. So for us to control the data on screen, we still have to use then because we need to wait for this to be fulfilled. So let's say data and then console.log data. So as we know, in this then, in promises, we have then and catch. So let's even use catch to handle any error that can happen, maybe network error or something else like that. Catch, then let's say error, console.log error. So let's learn this and see what will happen. So as you can see here, we have user1, id1, title, this one. So this means that we have managed to fetch our data from this server. This is what it means. We've seen how we can use fetch and then use then to get data from certain server. So now we are going to use async and await. Let's do an example of how we can use async and await and then fetch data from a server using this Fetch API. So as we know, syntax goes like this: async, and then you add the function that you are going to work on. Let me read this. And then you add the function that you are going to work on. So let's call our function like let's fetch. Let's call it just a random name. Let's fetch. And then let's do it like this, just a random name. So we are going to fetch data from this API that we have used, from the server that we have used earlier. Then let's declare a function called let's call it res, and then here we use await. As we know, await is used to wait for asynchronous code or to wait for promise to be fulfilled. So this helps us to avoid or to log the promise which is not fulfilled, which is still pending. So await fetch. Let's add in this URL. As I told you, fetch always takes URL. It has to be in strings. Let's try to add it. So we have now response and then await fetch. So we are not now even going to wait for the data or the response that we'll be getting from this one. So first of all, we have to change it into JavaScript object. So it will be less.js. So as I told you, we even have to wait for this. So await like this one. So once we do console.log data, so let's see what we have to get, what we will get. You see? So we get what we are supposed to get. So we can still here get the user ID, the ID and the title. So this is how we use fetch. You can use it on then, and you can even use it in async and await. So what you need to know about fetch is used to fetch data from server. We can even use it to display posts. So this means that you will be displaying posts from certain server. And then we can even use it in sending a login or signing up data. We can even use it in loading up in chat applications. So by hitting the last nail into the coffin, we can say that fetch is used to make HTTP request. Fetch returns a promise, and it helps us to connect our front end with our servers. So thank you. That was it for fetch. Thank you so much.